you know, there's no place on earth I wouldn't want to be than right here, you know, in this minute of trying to bring success to one of the biggest football clubs in the world. The basic underlying principles that I want my team to play football that scares the life out of every opposition, mate. That's kind of the end game.
Good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to the Varside Spurs podcast. And today joining me is Sarah. How are you doing, Sarah? Haven't spoken to you in ages.
It's been a long time, like, I don't know, 18 months or something, I think.
Something like that.
That's about the age the baby is.
Yeah, I was going to say, something's been happening. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, I became a parent 18 months ago, so life has just been a little bit chaotic, and the football's been bad until this season. Let's not be shy about that. So I weren't watching.
We've just been
and
talking,
I was too tired to do anything else, so sort of didn't join in for a bit. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've just been talking just quite how easy it is to be a parent, eh?
Hardest job.
Yeah.
Hardest job.
It needs untold energy, untold patience, untold money.
Yeah.
But
all
great.
Of those.
Yeah.
But it's great, yeah. You do it well, people do it over and over and over again, don't they? So it's
it is a cliche, but you have absolutely no idea what love is until you've got your own children, have you?
No, not even close. Not even close.
Anyway, let's not talk about soppy stuff. Let's talk about inspiring stuff. So how does it feel to be a Spurs fan, Sarah, at this time, when we've got just come out of 3 regimes of 3 absolute terrorists of football? We've now got Ange Postecoglou. How are you feeling about being Spurs now? What's the difference between those last 3 regimes? We had obviously Conte, Nuno, and Mourinho. And how do you feel about it now, having Ange at the helm?
I think, like, just with most people, like, he speaks with such honesty, and it's not about him. You know, you can tell he's there to build something for the football club, and you strip that back. You take it back to the early days of Pochettino. You know, they were there to build something for the football club. They were there to take us on a journey. Whereas, you know, as much as I was of the mindset that we should have been appointing big name managers at the time we did, it didn't work. So we do sort of need to go back to the beginning. I sort of feel 2 ways about it. Like, I'm really excited the club's playing nice football. I'm enjoying it, but I actually still feel a real disconnect between myself and how the club's being run. So it's kind of like I sort of like, yeah, great, playing nice football. I actually enjoy watching it, but I'm not the person cheering it that I was, just because I just feel, I don't know, for the first time I feel like a consumer. Like, that's how the club's made me feel, but.
We might learn more about that, actually, because I think there's a fans forum tonight, isn't there? And I think Levy's there, Ange is there, Son's there, and a few other people from the club. And I think they're trying to. I think like you're saying there, Sarah, really, is that there is this disconnect, and I think they're trying to address it, which they need to, because it's been all sort of cloak and dagger for such a long time that it's led to that kind of discontent in the fan base, let alone the stuff that's been happening on the pitch. But there is a real kind of like there's a mistrust between us all with what that's going on, and I'm hoping that what happens tonight is maybe they can pull some of those threads together to maybe see, communicate more clearly about where we see this all going now, and if we can believe it, and hopefully we can, then the future is bright.
Oh, I think so. Especially, we all like watching nice football, which is why we're all generally Spurs fans. You just used to seeing that flair, and it's great to watch football, and it's something that really has been missing for maybe 4.5 years, maybe towards the end of Pochettino's reign. It wasn't even there either. So, from that perspective, we sort of, without saying we've got everything we wanted on the pitch, because we've got no trophies, and that fundamentally that's what all the Spurs fans want, is a big fuck off shiny trophy. We've got everything we want on a pitch now. We've got players that look like they want to be there. They look like they're playing for the shirt. They're engaging with the fans on the pitch. They're engaging with the fans before games, after games. You know, they're saying all the right things, which, you know, should be fairly obvious to any bloody footballer. Let's be serious. They get enough coaching on it nowadays, but they're saying all the right things. And they just look like they're enjoying themselves. Like, when was the last time, you know, even last season, trying to get a smile out Sonny, was just something that wasn't happening, you know? Happiest guy in the world.
I don't know if you saw the Jonathan Liu article in The Guardian today. There was an actually really nice article. He was calling Postecoglou Postecoglou. And I think what the sort of gist of it is that actually now pretty much, you know, you've got the clubs with the most money like Man City, etc., that have just sewn up all the trophies. You know, it's harder than it's ever been to win a trophy.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is that you know what fans want is like we're getting at the moment is the engagement, the football, the exciting football, and actually sometimes the journey of, you know, your happiness is in the journey as much as it is in the destination, and maybe more important in many ways. So hopefully we're kind of seeing that now. Who knows where it will lead us? And like Andrew's been saying, isn't he, really, which is one of the things I suppose resonates with lots of us, is that, you know, once he's built the side that he wants and we're playing the sort of football he wants, the rest will take care of itself. And that's exciting to hear, you know, in contrast to, as we were talking about, the last three managers, and particularly Conte, who just basically, you know, had to hire extra buses to throw everyone under. You know, that's it's so refreshing that he's just saying, like, no, don't, you know, let them dream, let them get happy about it. I mean, that's what it's about.
Yeah, he fundamentally understands what it's like to be, you know, a football fan, and, you know, you can't knock a CV that Conte had. You can't knock the CV that Mourinho had in terms of what they've won, but, you know, where they've gone and won and where they've gone and done that, largely unlimited resources, or in leagues whereby being organised and hard to beat was enough to win that league. You know, being organised and hard to beat, Burnley was that for many years in the Premier League. They never got in the top half. So in the Premier League, that isn't enough. You need to be more than that. And I think, you know, if you haven't got the money, like you said, to just go and outspend everybody else, yeah, there's got to be more to it. You've got to be beating the teams that you should be beating, like Sheffield Wednesday, playing nice football along the way. And, you know, we will upset one or two big teams along the way. And if we can be in the mix going into the last 20% of the season and see what happens, then yeah, I think that's enough for most Spurs fans as a starting block.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, you know, we all want to win something. We want to dream that we'll win the Premiership one day, or we'll win a trophy. I mean, you know, one of those things could well happen, but it cannot be the only marker of success, because in actual fact, when you think about it, you know, in all the leagues, there's only one or two teams that basically look. I mean, you look at last season, Man City won every single thing.
Yeah,
you know, there's only one or two teams that will hoover it all up. So what does that mean? Everyone else is like an outright failure? I don't think so. You know, and it's like it's nice just to feel that we're at the beginning of a really exciting journey. And yeah, like we talked about in previous pods, that we're going to have some ups and downs. You know, Saturday, which we'll come on to in a second, felt like a little bit of an up and down, but it certainly was a bit of a roller coaster. But you know, but hopefully we feel excited, because I don't know about you. We'll get onto that game now, but just the vibe of that. I know at one point we were losing, but I didn't sense from any of the fans at the stadium. I don't know if you went, Sarah. Did you go, or did you watch it?
I didn't. I watched most of it from home.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't when I was there. I mean, maybe it translated from if you managed to get a wholly legitimate stream. But
no, the highlights I meant.
Yes, that's what. But I didn't get the sense the fans were angry at the players. It felt more that, you know, we knew that they'd given everything. They're more angry. We'll come on to this in a minute anyway. But it was some of the sort of wasting time that we saw.
Yes.
Yeah,
I agree.
Anywho, so we'll start with the first half then. So it was 0-0 at the end of the first half. But what did you make of the team selection overall? And were you surprised that Richie didn't start?
I wasn't surprised he didn't start. It probably took a bit of pressure off of him, to be fair. And I think also Sonny earned his right to start by playing down the middle and scoring his goals, and his performance has been good. So what I like about Ange is he's not afraid to go, you earned your place, you get your start in the next game. It isn't working, off you come after 60, 70 minutes. Like, that is refreshing in itself. I felt like the changes came quite late in the second half, but generally he rewards good performances. He does like to keep a steady team. My only surprise was maybe Mana Solomon starting, although his performance was actually okay on Saturday. I thought probably his best yet, but I'm yet to see why he should maybe start over others. Generally, but
I wonder, like you were saying there, really, I suppose you're hinting at it, really, that he just didn't want to change a winning team. So that was the team that started the last match, and they deserve to start again. And also, do you think there was any element of, given what we'd seen in this, in the international break, and of course how frustrated Richie's been, there's an element of sort of psychology there that he was dealing with that situation on Richie's behalf at all, or do you think that was not really factored into this?
I think it was part of it. I think it took the pressure away from the decision, because you can put your arm around him and say, look, you've been upset. There's a lot of pressure around you. The last thing you need to do is be starting the game. Start on the bench, fill your way in for the last 20 minutes of the game and see what happens. Whereas if he's starting the game, he himself is going to be even more emotionally charged, because he's going to be thinking, I've got to start well. He's going to be flying into challenges. He's going to be tears in his eyes after 15, 20 minutes because he's missed the sitter or whatever it might be. Whereas, coming off the bench, if from a point of view where you don't know where the result is, if you're coming in on your 1-0 down and you're coming on for 10 minutes, you're trying to change the game. Well, most pundits after the game, so, he brought him on with only 10 minutes to play. What the hell do you think he's meant to do in 10 minutes? And then also, if he comes on and he scores the equaliser or the winning goal, he's a hero. So it was almost a win-win for Richie, in the sense that he got the chance to step out the spotlight, take a bit of pressure off himself, and then come on and feel his way into the game after, for the last 20 minutes, half hour, however long he got. So I think it was a bit of both. I think it's rewarding the team that done a very, very good job against Burnley, whilst also, even if he was tempted to put him in, I think what happened was enough to say, no, you just need to be here today and chill.
Are you saying it's good management?
Unbelievably, I think it is good management, But you can see that just from the change of attitude, can't you, from the players?
100%. And I think also, prior to the game, in the press conference beforehand, there were some really, really thoughtful things that Postecoglou was saying. He never seems to put a foot wrong, does he, with what he says? He doesn't say lots. It's very measured. But also the fact that he was talking about mental health in general, and not just being cliched about it, talking about us all, the fact that he'd lost his dad a few years ago, that's something he's having to deal with, that there's not a single person in this room, he was speaking to all the journalists, that won't have gone through something. And, and footballers aren't immune to it either. And so I think, like, you're saying there, really, I think he's played a really a really good hand here, and the way he's dealt with that situation, and it's taken the pressure off him quite considerably for bringing him later on, and I hopefully
fans can. Sorry,
go on.
I was going to say, I think fans need to be reminded that these people are these players are people at the end of the day, and there's a lot of nasties that go on after games, depending on performances, and conversations about players like, get out of my club, you're crap, like you're a donkey, whatever else. Like, I can only imagine the abuse Maguire gets, for example, and Jesus, he's just someone who's trying to do his job well, and maybe
the
he's
irony
not
is
performing.
Is that some of the fans that will probably be siding with what Postecoglou said will be some of the fans that have also piled in on other players, and you've seen the adverts, right, where people either it's sort of nasty name calling or racial abuse and that kind of stuff. In fact, we had some of that in this game as well, which is absolutely abhorrent. And hopefully the club finds out who that person is as well. But But it's I suppose there's always an element of hypocrisy, but I just feel that he particularly dealt with this one really well
Very
overall. Well. And it seems to chime with so many people, because I don't think, like, he's suggesting there is a single person who you may feel has it all going on, but really, it's like the duck swimming, the feet underneath are going like the clappers, but on top of it, they look really calm, but
yeah.
And sometimes football players have to seem like that. They have to put on this front, don't they? That they've got it all going on. And maybe there's an element of guilt in the fact that they do get paid all this money and they do play the game that many people would dream of playing. But doesn't it mean that they're exempt from feeling terrible at some points in their life? So yeah. I think that was brilliantly the way he handled it, and hopefully this is a real boost for Richarlison, and and the players also know that he's going to treat them like humans.
Yeah, and respect them and respect their emotions. Whereas I think you can say that since probably Pochettino, that hasn't been a thing under the management styles that we had in place. So I would expect to see Richarlison running through brick walls now for Postecoglou. And that's what he's bringing. If we can't go out and buy the Haalands and the De Bruynes to compete with Man City, then you need, your players that are very good to run through brick walls to make the best of what you've got and to be better and get that extra 1, 2, 3% out of them.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, Richie will now find a rich vein of form.
And you can, as a manager, contrary to what some people seem to have thought, make these players into that kind of player that you're talking about. I mean, for example, you look at Bissouma. I mean, we bought him for 25 million, and he looked like a 10 million pound player last year under Conte. This year, would you have Enzo above him? Would you have Moises Caicedo above him? This guy feels like the fulcrum of the team to me at the moment, and he's easily a 100 million pound looking player if you compare him against those players, and that's up to Ange, right?
I think so. He's got him full of confidence. He's got him playing well, and I think the one thing that I don't know it word for word, but the one thing he says is, I'm going to have a go at you if you hoof the ball at the pitch, but if you try and play out and you try and do the right things, and then eventually it's going to come good. Make that mistake once, make that mistake twice. Eventually you'll stop making that mistake, and we're going to look incredible. And it's almost that freedom, because you could, as a fan, you could sense the terror of a mistake from the squad last year and the year before. To be fair, they were just too terrified to give that ball away, because they knew if we lost at the end of the game, and it was from that situation, that the answer at the press conference would have been, well, it was his fault. He gave the ball away on the halfway line. I told him not to do that, and it just created fear, which isn't conductive to any sort of performance in any way, shape of life. It's just absolutely so refreshing to see that. And what the most exciting bit is about our midfield is we've still got Bentancur to come back.
Yeah, that's
an unbelievable addition to still come back. Nobody's noticed that he's missing this year.
No, I mean, because Sarr stepped up so brilliantly that
he has.
When Bentancur comes back, that's going to be a real dilemma.
I think so. Yeah, because we're only one game a week as well, so it's kind of like, until January we're one game a week, and hopefully we can get a run together in the FA Cup. But yeah, how do you build those minutes up for Bentancur? That's the difficulty bit now.
Yeah. No, but I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sarah, as well. So let's talk about time wasting, because we saw an awful lot in this game. In the first half, I couldn't believe we only ended up with 3 minutes at the end of the first half. 3 minutes when we had a goalkeeper alone who went through this whole, I don't if you saw any of this, but it was an absolute joke. He threw himself down the floor, then he took his gloves off, he threw his gloves, he went through a whole rigmarole. Someone came on, they treated him and did all that sort of like pushing his leg up and all this kind of crap. That he was down on the floor for about 7 or 8 minutes, and that doesn't include any of the other sort of rolling around and feigning injuries constantly throughout that first half, and we ended up with 3 minutes. That is just ridiculous. Have you ever seen time wasting like it?
I'm trying to think who it is who used to be very, very good at time wasting, and it used to drive me insane. I think it was at Chelsea under Mourinho. He would just get those little fouls and go down and break up play whenever they got the lead. It felt sort of like that, because for them, a draw away at Tottenham or a win, if they could have snuck it, it would have been a huge result. And the more time that they can break up our flow and break up our play, the better, because once we get going, it's very, very hard to stop this team from playing.
Yeah.
So that is almost the only option that teams do have. And it is up to the referees to make sure they're adding the appropriate amount of time. So it seems like he got told off at half time for only adding 3 minutes on. So he added them all on the second half.
Yeah, we'll come on to that. God, he did. Because the first half finished 0-0. We utterly dominated possession. We had loads of corners and good chances, and Basuma looked like he'd done a Lionel Messi where he danced through and nearly scored. I mean, we all jumped up at that point thinking he's got to score here, and didn't. And it was quite frustrating. But when the boos came at half time, it wasn't this time for the players. It was for the referee and for all that time wasting, because I think everyone was so frustrated that we just absolutely played these off the park. But like you were saying, Sarah, that they just come to do that was their game. Just
do you think the players know that? Do you think the players knew that?
I think so. I think there was just a different vibe about it, because because everything the players were doing, we were cheering and encouraging them and all that kind of stuff. Clearly, I mean, the players must have been so frustrated with that. In fact, that referee, Peter Banks, what did you feel about his display? I mean, for me, he didn't feel like he was in control of the game half the time.
I don't think it felt like he was in control of the game, and I've written down here like he wanted to be the centre of attention, a bit like a Mike Dean. Like Mike Dean before he retired would like to be the centre of attention. It would be about him. It felt a lot like that, but with just the worst refereeing performance tied into it. And I think refereeing is a real thankless job. Don't get me wrong, and we're very lucky that people want to do it. However, they don't do themselves any favours in situations like this.
Yeah.
And they've got the extra official. They missed the penalty on Maddison. I don't know if that was the first half or the second half. They missed the penalty on Maddison, and then just handing out really soft yellow cards generally, which led to the point where, obviously, in our favour, Sheffield United had a player sent off. But it could have been anybody yesterday.
Oh.
And for a game where there wasn't actually anything that nasty throughout.
I mean, there were a lot of yellow cards. I mean, there was even one point where we went to take a corner, and it might have been a ball boy threw a ball on at the same time or something like that. He stopped the game and gave them a drop kick, and a drop ball, and it just didn't make any sense at all. It's just like there was no common sense applied at all. It was just there's so many silly things going on. I think it was really one of the worst refereeing displays I've seen in a long, long time. It rankled. Even the opposition manager had a bit of a cheek, really, but complained about the refereeing display. And I think it just was. It really felt like he had lost his grip on the game, which is probably why he ended up trying to dish out so many yellows to try and kind of like calm it down a bit.
Yeah, I think so, but that almost has the opposite effect, doesn't it? Because players are then wound up because there's no consistency. I think I've played football, play hockey now, and I don't mind if someone's shit. Excuse my language. I don't mind if someone's crap referee, but what you want is consistency. So you want to see it both ways. Whereas there was no rhyme or reason to what he was doing. There was no like, well, every time your stud slightly up, that's going to be a free kick. It was 4 studs up. The 5th one is a yellow card, and next one's going to be a red card. And actually, the 5th one was the least aggressive of all 4 before that. So it'd be really interesting to see whether he gets a game this weekend or whether he's demoted. And they need to do something about the standard of officiating in this league, because if they don't, what's going to happen? Because the official should be there. You shouldn't notice they're there. That's the best referee. When you don't know they're there, they're just officiating the game. They're getting on with it. It's not about them. And actually, the game was ruined on Saturday because it was being stopped too much. It wasn't being well managed. The players were frustrated.
Free kicks were going the wrong way.
Another day could have led to an injury.
Yeah.
And
No, I
it's
just
kind of,
wonder if there's an element of that they're waiting for VAR to do the actual real decision making for them. So if there's any sort of howlers, they'll be told, and so they're not making the real decisions, or they're making sort of minor ones, but they're not, they're not helping the game at all. And any of the key decisions, they're just like that. Like you said, that had to be a penalty on Maddison. I mean, if the one on Son the previous time was a penalty, when that basically is a feather touch on him, that was definitely a penalty, and I suspect he's just hoping VAR will look at it and he doesn't have to make the decision.
Yeah, and it's too slow as well, isn't it? They want this fast-paced product, which I think is good for everybody. They want the fans to get the most for their money with the added time. Whole different story. Totally agree with it, unless it's 8 o'clock kickoff and fans can't get home. You can't have an 8 o'clock kickoff and do what you're doing. No. In my opinion, I'm going hopefully to the Fulham game in a couple of weeks, and it's an 8 o'clock kickoff on a Monday night. If I was getting a train home, I literally wouldn't make the last train home. I wouldn't be able to get home. I'd have to stay overnight, and it's expensive enough for fans without that piece on top. So, if you want to do that, well, you need to have bigger discussions with the rail networks to get them put on later trains, or you need to make the kickoffs earlier, amongst those things. So there'll be people saying then that they can't get to the games if it's a 7:30 kickoff, for example, and I do appreciate that. But, if they can cancel games because it's unsafe for fans to travel, how is it okay to have a game that can kick off or finish, I should say, full time after a point where fans can get home, because it's still about their safety.
We're finishing at 10:30.
Yeah.
So we'll jump to the second half. More of the same, more time wasting, more frustration. I thought McBurney actually for them was pretty much their only threat. I mean, he put himself about quite a bit and sort of gave a bit of a test for our defence. Then on the 73rd minute, Hammer blow. Hammer scores.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but I that was so frustrating at that point, and some fans left.
No way.
Some not many, but some did. But to be honest, the way they'd played that game, you just felt that if they're the fact that they've wasted so much time, now it was going to be shut up shop. And I must admit, at that point, even I was starting to think, I'm not seeing how we're going to get back into this, because they are just going to basically park the bus now. Did you feel at that point we could still get into it?
I'm not sure there was a fan alive that didn't think manager of the month, player of the month, 1-0 down in the 73rd minute, game over. Yeah. That is, typically great. That's it. It's finished. And I did say to Michael, I was like, I've just gone 1-0 down. That's it. And I was refreshing my Twitter feed like every 5 minutes after this point. And I just sort of thought, I can't be bothered to check anymore now. Like, after 85 minutes, I was like, nah, this isn't happening. But yeah, then I suppose he made some changes, positive changes.
Mm-hmm.
We all thought it was a bit late, but obviously we had another kind of 12 minutes, 13 minutes of football to play.
Mm-hmm.
So he almost put those subs on with what would ordinarily be 5 minutes, and they've got 15 minutes. There's a bit more of a chance of influencing the game, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, like the first round of subs were on 80 minutes. So we had Johnson come on for Son, Richie for Sarr, and Perisic for Solomon. That was on that sort of 80 minutes. But interestingly, afterwards, it seemed Andrew was saying that he felt confident we'd have at least 10 more minutes added on. So he was like thinking this gives them 20 minutes to go at it. So even though it was in the 80th minute, normally we'd get 1 or 2 minutes more, but he was feeling that this was going to go for another 20 minutes. So that was actually really quite clever in terms of, hopefully that they were tiring, which I've got the sense that they were starting to tire at that point. But those three came on, They did affect the game, but not quite enough yet. So he brought on 2 more, and on the 90th minute plus 4, like 94th minute, he brought in Højbjerg for Van der Ven, which I thought was really brave, because we basically only had one defender, didn't we? Really, central defender. And then Royal was swapped for Porro, and then a few minutes later, Perisic knocks in the 15th corner of the game. Richie heads it in. He's brilliant with these headers, isn't he? And
he is,
boom, there we go. And then at that point, I think most people in the stadium were thinking, we'll take the draw. That at least we haven't lost the damn game, because that was just be so unjust, and it was going crazy. I mean, the whole ground was going crazy, but funnily enough, the person that wasn't was Richie. He got the ball, calm as you like, didn't even do his pigeon celebration, went straight back to the centre circle and was like, right, let's go.
Yeah. So I love that attitude in a player, because we saw it against Leicester a few years ago with Stevie Bergwijn, didn't we? And that attitude to just get the ball and go again. And if we want to amount to great things at the end of the season, it is moments like these that make the difference. If you rest on your laurels and you take your 1-1 and you'd be happy you've managed to snatch a point, and hope it adds up at the end of the season to something that's worth that. But no, we went again, pressed really high, forced them into a mistake inside their own half, and then personally, I think the keeper probably should have done a bit of a better job, and I'm very glad he didn't, because it went in. But I don't think the keeper covered himself in glory for that.
No, he's rooted to the spot. I mean, I got the impression, because I think it was a lovely bit of play, actually, wasn't it? With I think Udogie knocked it to Richie, who then set up assisted the winner. The way that actually Kulu took that ball with his one foot and then knocked it to the other, and then just basically calmly bent it. I think he actually went through the player's legs, so maybe the keeper was unsighted, but it went the opposite way to what you would expect, because I thought he was going to go in sort of across the keeper, and it went the other side, didn't it? And so we're all standing there thinking, we're kind of like, what's going to happen here? And I couldn't believe that it went in. Fucking hell, did it go off? It went, honestly, it went mad. I can't remember a game. Well, I can, obviously, with the Leicester game and also the Ajax game, but it had that sort of feel. Everyone was going crazy. My son fell even to the next row in front of us, because everybody was jumping up and down, and we had people running up and down the aisles and taking their tops off and all sorts. It was magical. And
I'd like to see a poll for the amount of bruises.
Oh yeah, I've got bruises everywhere. But it felt like that was absolute justice. And there were some lovely little moments afterwards, which we were wetting ourselves with, when our players were then starting to go down.
Yes, James Maddison.
Yeah, you see the Maddison one where he's got his foot up in the end, he's laughing. Brilliant. And then loads of them like getting cramp in air quotes. It was fantastic. It was just like just desserts.
And you want that in football, don't you? Whenever I'm watching, a neutral game of football, we do watch any football that's going here. It's always on the telly if there's a game on. It doesn't matter who's playing, not Arsenal. Generally is the rule. You want the team that has tried to win the game to win the bloody game of football, because otherwise, what's the point? And as we said earlier, if we're not going to win things, we want to play well, we want to play nice football, and you want to see those teams winning everything. And there's one thing you can say about Man City is, they've got all the money in the world to do it, but boy, do they play nice football along the way most of the time. So you sort of feel like, okay, fine, whatever. But for us to try and play the right way, doing it the way we want to, and then to go and do that. If I'd have been in the ground, I'd have been on the pitch, I think, probably.
Honestly, I think people were willing to. It just felt like that. It was unbelievable. I mean, the only person that probably wasn't going mental was actually Ange himself. He apparently was just trying to get everyone back, and even Vicario, do you see him like leg it like lightning speed? He was like warp speed right down to the bottom and jump, and all the people on the bench were coming off and running on. It was phenomenal. But
it was the reaction of a cup.
Yeah.
goal. It didn't. That's not the sort of reaction you expect in a Premier League game. But what I think it does show is how much they all wanted to win, how freaking pissed off they were with the style of football Sheffield were trying to play. The relief that we won it that late, and the way we won it, and the style we won it, two goals in added time. Like Jesus, like great,
comeback kings.
You deserve to celebrate that. And if at the end of the season we want to amount to something, every win's got to mean that much, whether it comes in the first minute or the last minute.
Yeah,
talking about the over celebrations and stuff.
That was the latest comeback in Premier League history. And the one before that, which was the latest comeback in Premier League history, was our game against Leicester. So we are the comeback kings.
Comeback kings. That's because we can't get the foot in front, mate.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I mean, but the other thing that with those celebrations and seeing what all the players were doing is the unity. The fact that the way that they all came together and for each other, and and the fact that they all then at that point, even though a number of them ran to Kulusevski, a lot of them ran also to Richie, just because he'd set the winner up, and they were just elated for him. They just really, really wanted him to feel that love, and you could sense it's like we at the end of the game. Normally, game finishes, the music starts up, you start walking out, right? People were staying behind for 5-10 minutes because. The players would, you see them do that kind of holding hands and walking up to the Park Lane, and they were pushing Richie up there and all that kind of stuff. It felt like a really important moment. And so, you can have your celebration police who are telling us that, why are we getting so excited? But actually, it really did feel like an important moment.
I don't think, like you said, it wasn't just about the result, was it? And I think, I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a giggle at Arsenal at times when they've done that in the past, the last couple of years or whatever else. But, unless you're as connected to a football club as a fan is, you're never really going to understand that overreaction. And I think, coming from it from our point of view, as we said, the relief to get the result in the style that we got it after the refereeing performance, after the performance of the team we were playing against. The fact that most of the time, they talk about the manager of the month and the player of the month curse, like we managed to overcome that as well. International break, that's normally a bit of a slip up for us moment. All of these things, we're all sort of saying, go on, these are all things that normally, individually, not even occurring together, you wouldn't go and get a result in that fixture following this moment. You've got them all in one. What are you going to do? So we won. We had a player who's admitted having a real stinky time, and he's been very highly emotionally charged all season. I think we can all say we felt, and it was kind of the happiness for him. And it's just that whole, he talks about in his book, Postecoglou, about there's always that moment where the players realise that what I'm telling them is true, and it's going to happen for them. Like this could be that moment for them. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying we're on the way there, but it could be.
So I think that's an absolutely brilliant point, Sarah. That moment may well be the moment everyone starts to realise. I think the players have obviously bought into it, but perhaps, like you're saying, that there is a kind of just that moment that us as the fan base and us as really truly believe in what we're doing here, but also the players as well. And it just really struck me. I can't remember the last time I'd seen a Premier League game where there was such unity between the fan base, but also between the players themselves. The way that they held each other, they held hands, and they, I know we can talk about how people might just say, well, this is just Sheffield United, come on. But it wasn't just that. It was the never give up. As Ange said, we never give up. It was partly that. It was partly the sense of justice. And also it was there was probably lots of tweets lined up in people's ready to go to say typical Spurs, they always mess it up and all this kind of stuff. They can't even beat Sheffield United, blah blah blah, and they had to sort of put those ones aside. It just felt like a real moment beyond that game and who we were playing. The fan base exploded. The players really came together for Richarlison, who was the turnaround player, considering everything that had happened to him just recently. It felt like the fans were showing their love for him and also for what the team were doing, and they were showing it back to us. And so, you know, the game almost at that point, who we were playing was kind of irrelevant. It felt like a moment between fan and player.
I totally agree, and I think if you'd asked any Spurs fan at the start of the season, would we be sitting second in the table, having won as many games as we have, having won and scored as many goals as we had? You know, at the end of the last season, when we didn't even know who our manager was going to be when the season finished, when the football had been utter dross, and the only reason we weren't in a relegation battle was because we had Harry fucking Kane in the starting 11. Yeah. You know, nobody would have thought that this situation here unfolding would be possible. I'm really sorry. No way. Not even if you were on drugs would you believe that this was going to be the outcome. And I think, you know, people forget that we've been watching a football team but for the past 24 months has been eroding any success it was building quite rapidly, not progressing. You know, the players unhappy, managers unhappy, fans massively unhappy. And this was just a moment of, I'm actually proud to support this football team again, as much as anything else. I think that's a big thing to say.
It is, and I think it's an important thing to say as well. I mean, don't get us wrong. You know, we'd be hypocrites if we didn't say that we backed Conte at certain points, because we did.
Agreed.
You know, and only, you know, the games were rubbish. You know, we backed the team and him when we were winning, like the scrappy, horrible 1-0s, etc. But it weren't things that we were forgiving. Let's just say that, because we could think, well, we know he's a winner, and he's probably going to get it right if we just give him the sort of players. It's not the football that we really want to see, but okay, what's more important now is we do, you know, we were kind of sort of making excuses for it all. But when it unraveled as it did, it then really brought it home what a miserable experience it's been. And you know, as you say, it was probably for me, and I'm sure not just for me, I'm sure for many, many other people as well, probably one of the most miserable times I can remember since that Sherwood time, which you know, which wasn't very great either, when we had a lot of players who just needed to go, and you know, it was toxic, it was horrible. And for him to come in and turn it around as quickly as he has is incredible, really. And I think that's, you know, of course we've brought in quite a few players. That's changed the dressing room. I'm sure that's had a big impact on that. Lots of them don't have Premiership experience either. So that could be seen as a negative, but the man himself is the kind of the lightning rod, I suppose, for it all. He's the one that's managed to bring that unity, not just to the players but to the fan base, but saying all the right things and being sincere about it as well, and talking us up, you know, talking about the fact that when he left Celtic, they were a really famous club, but he's come to one of the biggest clubs in the world, and it makes you feel proud, and he knows that. I mean, I'm sure, you know, he actually means it, but also I think he just knows what to say. He gets what fans want to hear, because you don't, like we had with Conte, want to hear that basically you're doing us a big fuck off favor. We're paying the geezer 15 million quid a year. We were doing him a favor. You know, you know, I don't know. But anyway, thank God those days are over. And at the moment, we now are looking forward to, shall I say, maybe, I don't know, maybe that might not be quite right, but we have the Goon game at the weekend. How are you feeling about it?
To be honest with you, like, I'm at the point where I've only just started looking ahead at our fixtures rather than thinking, on a Friday night, when are we playing this weekend? I don't know why I chose to do it this weekend, because now I'm like, oh God, got Arsenal this weekend. Actually, both teams are playing well. Both teams are scoring lots of goals, so you can almost bet your bottom dollar it's going to be a 0-0. But you know, we don't have much success at the Emirates. I think we've lost at least our last
record.
5.
Yeah, terrible record.
So we owe them one, is what I would say. But I think more importantly, what we want to see again is going there, going toe to toe with them, making ourselves proud that we've gone there and we've given it a go. We haven't gone there to go and nick it 1-0.
Yeah.
But I think lots of goals. I think, it's really just going to be who can put their chances away on the day. I don't think there's a form card here that you can even play.
No.
But I'm optimistic. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we lost. I wouldn't be surprised if we won. I know that sounds like a silly thing to say.
No, not at all. I mean, I think you've once again, you've made some brilliant points there, Sarah. I think I don't know. It's a different type of optimism. It's a sense. Well, I think we will have a go. This team isn't the sort of team that's going to go there and lay down. I mean, I can't see that. I can't see Ange would allow that. At the very minimum, which is win, lose or draw, we'll go there and have a go at them, and not like last few times we've been like cowards. We've not turned up at all. We've shrank. We've played defensively for just pure fear, and they've just completely bossed us. This time I feel there's a reason to be optimistic, because I get the sense that even if we did lose it, we will at least see our players have a damn good go at it. And that's all we can ask. It's going to be a tough ask there. It's going to be really hostile. It's going to be, a cauldron. I think, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised to see it go either way. I am cautiously optimistic, but what would your prediction for the score be, Sarah?
2-2.
2-2. Yeah, that's a good shout. Actually, do you know what? I'm gonna copy you. I'm gonna say 2-2 as well. I think it feels like neither side will want to lose this, and both sides will have a go at it.
Yeah, I feel like if you get to if you get to 85 minutes and you've got 15 minutes left to play, and it's 2-2, you can almost see not the teams not going for it, but you can almost see them going, we're going to leave that extra man back rather than create the overload, and maybe it will stagnate a little bit. That being said, if someone's chasing the game with kind of 10, 15 minutes to go, it'll be a very exciting game.
Do you know what though, Sarah?
I'd almost rather be in the position of chasing at that point, because my heart doesn't cope well with being if we're under the cosh. We don't know what this team will do in that situation yet. We don't know how they're going to handle it. So
that'll be really, really interesting.
Yeah, if this was England ladies at the Euros, I was like, I'd quite like to see them go behind at this game, because we haven't seen them go behind. And what happens if they go behind in a final and they don't know how to get back from behind? And my friends will look at me like, "Are you crazy?" So I sort of want to see us go behind to a very good side. How we overcome that would be nice. Just not against Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, but do you know what? The other thing is that I just don't think it's in Ange's mindset to then, if it was 2-2 and there were 10 minutes to go, to kind of shore it up. I think he would just think, I'm going to bring on some subs to try and win it.
It'd be interesting to see what the players buy in it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I spoke over you.
No, that's all right. I mean, to be fair, I think I'm just really curious to see how it pans out. I wonder if he's going to be as courageous as he has been in every other game so far. And if we are at that point where it is, we could draw this game and we had, 10 minutes to go, does he bring on subs to try and win it? I suspect he would, and that's a massive departure from the last 3 or 4 managers.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? I think even under Pochettino, I don't know that he'd have been that brave, to be honest.
No.
So it's a departure from everything. And even I'm sitting here thinking, don't make that change a little bit, because I'm like, don't lose now. But his style is, and it'd be interesting to get some feedback from some Celtic fans. Like, was there ever a moment where they were in a fixture, whether it be it'd probably be in European competition, that was big and important, or against Rangers, where he could have settled for it and he didn't, and he went and lost it, or he went and won it? Like, what is his style? Has he ever done that? Because everything you read is that he doesn't, but fundamentally over a course of 40 games in the season, 50, 60 games including cups,
I think
maybe
our
there's a
fan
point
base.
where you accept that.
I wonder, do you think our fan base would forgive him though if it was 2-2 and he went for it to try and win it, and we nearly did, but we got done on the break and we lost it? Do you think that the fan base are going to go mental at him and call him naive, or do you think we'll applaud that courage? And this is one of those moments he's talked about where it might well go against us, but we will be brave and we will have a go at it. I wonder how fans will react to it.
I mean, personally, like Spurs fans are very forgiving because otherwise you couldn't be a Spurs fan. I think, speaking for myself, and I think a large number of people that I know, if we've gone, we've played well, we've given it a go, and he goes, right, we're going to go and win this with 10 minutes to go. It will feel like a sucker punch, but we'll all go, well, he's told us he's doing this from the onset. So, it shouldn't be a surprise, but you'll always get those, that 5% that overreact. But from my perspective, it'll be interesting to see the players more than anything, because Ange can make those changes, but if the players still go, I'm just going to sit behind the ball here rather than try and play, it'd be interesting. We seem to have shifted enough of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say, Sarah. The good thing is we've got quite a few different and newer players and younger players. I mean, the average age is 22, 23 or something now, isn't it? That won't have that baggage. Maybe they won't have that fear. Maybe because quite a few of them will never have played in a North London derby either.
No, it'd be interesting how to cope with it. Is someone like Destiny. He's an incredible left back. Is that left back we've been searching for since Danny Rose sort of lost his form in that position? And he's really integral to our success, because if he's not there, we've got Perisic or Davies. So it'd be interesting to see how they cope with that, but. I don't know, almost the younger the better. You get to sort of like 25 to sort of 29, and they know the importance of those fixtures, so they sort of freeze up, and then they get to after 29, they're like, I've been here, done that enough times now to not freeze up. So it's sort of, the squad is young enough not to freeze up in that situation.
And skillful enough to cope with it as well. I mean, we've seen so far that Doggy looks like he could be a £100 million player as well. He's just the way that he's fitted in straight away has surprised so many. I mean, we expected good things from him, but not so quickly.
I totally agree, because obviously he was playing in French league or Italian league?
Italian, yeah.
Italian league. Yeah. So, not an easy league, but not the Premier League by any stretch of the imagination. And, with the Premier League, particularly the style we're playing, high press, high intensity for, the full 90 minutes. Maybe I'm doing the Italian league a disjustice, but you certainly don't believe that of the Italian league in general. So, he's stepped up, he's dealt with physicality, he's dealt with the speed, he's dealt with the intensity. So, yeah, the last check on the list is probably that atmosphere on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. Be interesting to see kind of that side of it. But, yeah,
it's Sunday.
I'm really positive.
It is Sunday, yeah, you're right.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Really, really positive to kind of see what comes out of it, really. And I won't be disappointed as long as we turn up and we go toe to toe.
That's it.
Because I think that's more than what we've done for the last kind of definitely 3 fixtures.
Yeah, no,
really.
I agree with you there, Sarah. Okay, well, on that note, I think we'll round it up. I'll do a quick shout out to Redemption. I know they're brewing a new one at the moment, Green Hop, I think it's called. So I'm not sure when that'll be ready, but if you're at the Liverpool game, get along there. I won't be, unfortunately. I'm going to be in Santorini.
Oh, what a shame!
What a shame. Be watching it there though, with some nice,
of course you will be.
Nice mythos or some raki or something. I don't know.
Oh well, I hope you enjoy that. I need a holiday.
Anyway, have a great evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us, Sarah. And
you're welcome.
We need to get you back on again soon, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. No worries.
Cool.
Up the Spurs.
Up the Spurs.
There's no place on earth I wouldn't want to be than right here. In this minute of trying to bring success to one of the biggest football clubs in the world. The basic underlying principles that I want my team to play football that scares the life out of every opposition, mate. That's kind of the end game.